your English podcast.
Hello, everyone. A huge warm welcome back to your English podcast. It is fantastic to have you with us today. My name is Alex.
And my name is Nina. We are absolutely thrilled to be back in your ears. We are settling in for what I think is going to be a really transformational conversation.
I hope so.
It feels like we're just sitting down for a coffee chat with you, the listener, but we are going to go deep today.
That is definitely the plan. So grab a coffee, grab a tea, or if you're stuck in traffic on your commute, just turn up the volume and let's get into it.
Let's.
I was thinking about something earlier today, just kind of reflecting on my own experiences with language learning. And I think a lot of our listeners are going to relate to this specific pain point. It's that classic, just heartbreaking frustration. You spend years studying. I mean, years. You've got the grammar books, you've memorized the vocabulary lists, you ace the tests.
You feel like you've done everything right.
Exactly. You feel like, okay, I have conquered this mountain, I know English, and then the real world happens.
I see where this is going. It's the false summit, isn't it? That moment you think you're at the top, but you're really just at the beginning of the real climb.
It's the false summit, perfectly put. You step off a plane in New York or London or Sydney, or maybe you just walk into a real business meeting with international colleagues for the first time, and suddenly you feel completely lost. It's like they aren't even speaking the same language you spent 5 years studying in a quiet little room. It's so disorienting.
Oh, absolutely. It's a physiological shock. It really is. It is the classic divide between what we call classroom English, which is a totally controlled, sterile environment, and real-world interaction.
Right. Sterile is a good word for it.
In the classroom, everything is sanitized. The audio tracks are slow, they're clear, perfectly enunciated, and usually they're scripted to prove some kind of grammatical point,
Yeah, of course. The pen is on the table.
Exactly. But real life is messy. It's fast. People mumble. They use slang you've never heard. They interrupt each other. There is background noise from traffic or a coffee machine.
It all just hits you at once.
And it can be incredibly demoralizing. To realize that getting an A on a test doesn't necessarily mean you can order a sandwich in a noisy deli without your heart rate just, going through the roof.
That is exactly it. It feels like a betrayal almost. You think, I did the work, what went wrong?
Yeah.
And that is what we are exploring today.
Yes.
We want to be your guides to bridging that gap. We want to take you from that textbook perfection, which is actually quite brittle, to street smart fluency, which is flexible and resilient.
We have a massive agenda today. We aren't just going to give you a few tips. We are going to really look at the mechanics of why this happens.
Okay.
We're going to look at the reality of accents and even a bit of the neuroscience of muscle memory in your mouth. We're going to talk about navigating cities, handling problems when things inevitably go wrong.
Things always go wrong.
Always. We'll get into mastering the art of small talk and even the psychology of making mistakes and how to get over that fear.
So our mission today is pretty simple then. We want to help you find your natural voice, not a robot voice from an app, not a textbook voice, but your voice in English.
So let's get into it.
Let's do it. I want to start with something that hits people so hard right away, usually the moment they leave the airport. Accents.
The first wall you hit.
The very first.
Yeah.
You learn standard American or received pronunciation, British English in school. It's very proper, very clean. But then you meet someone from Scotland or the American South or India or even a non-native speaker from France speaking English. and it is a shock to the system.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that gap so incredibly hard to bridge?
It is a shock because our brains are fundamentally pattern matching machines. That's what they do all day.
Okay.
When you learn in a classroom, you are usually exposed to a very, very narrow band of frequencies and rhythms, what we call the standard. But in reality, English is a global language. It's a kaleidoscope of sounds.
Right.
And it's not just about vocabulary, it's about prosody.
Prosody. Okay, break that down first. What does that actually mean?
Prosody is the music of the language. It's the rhythm, the stress patterns, the intonation, the melody.
Melody, I like that.
When you hear a strong accent, often the phonemes, the individual vowel and consonant sounds, are different, sure, but the prosody, the music, can be completely different too.
And that throws you off just as much.
More, sometimes. And a lot of learners get really discouraged. They immediately think, my listening skills are terrible. I'm stupid. I failed. But in reality, their listening skills are probably fine for the standard dialect they were trained on.
I see.
They just suffer from a severe lack of exposure to the variety of the real world. It's an experience gap.
So it's a data problem, not an intelligence problem. You just haven't fed your brain enough different kinds of data.
Precisely. It's an exposure issue. Your brain hasn't built the predictive models for that specific accent yet. It's hearing sounds it can't place.
I feel like the natural reaction for a lot of people is just to retreat. When they hear an accent they don't understand, they just kind of nod and smile and hope the person stops talking.
That is the fight or flight response kicking in. Your brain perceives it as a threat, a stressful situation. But the advice here is simple, but it's also tough. You have to lean in. You have to fight that instinct.
I give up.
Do not give up. You have to expose yourself to those different voices intentionally. If you only listen to one type of English, you're only learning a fraction of the language. You need to actively train your ear to hear the patterns in different dialects.
So actively seek out movies from Australia or podcasts from Ireland, that kind of thing.
Yes, be an explorer of sound.
It's interesting you mentioned patterns. I've heard this term muscle memory used a lot regarding sports, like a tennis swing or playing the piano. But you talk about it regarding speech. I always thought speech was a mental act, not a physical one.
Well, it's both. And this is a huge stumbling block for many learners. They treat language purely as an intellectual exercise, memorizing rules, filling in blanks.
The academic approach.
Exactly. But speaking is a motor skill. It is a physical performance. It involves hundreds of micro muscles in your jaw, your tongue, your lips, your throat, all coordinating in milliseconds.
So it's more like a dance than a math problem.
It is exactly like a dance. Think about when you drive a car. After a while, you don't think, okay, I am now moving my foot 5 centimeters to the left to press the brake pedal because the light is red.
Wait, you just brake.
You just brake. That's procedural memory. It's automatic. In speech, we want the basics to be that automatic. We want to move from declarative memory, which is consciously knowing the rule, to procedural memory, which is just doing the action without thinking.
So how do we get there?
Yeah.
Because I can know the grammar rule for, say, the present perfect continuous, but still stutter and hesitate when I try to actually use it in a sentence.
You have to automate the chunks. Language isn't built word by word, it's built in chunks. Take common question and answer pairs. How are you? I'm good, thanks. How about you? Or, what have you been up to lately? Oh, not much, just working a lot. These little exchanges happen thousands of times in life.
They're like the building blocks.
They are. They are chunks of language. If you have to assemble those chunks word by word, translating in your head every single time, you are wasting massive amounts of mental energy.
That's a great way to put it. You're burning brain fuel on the absolute basics, so you have nothing left for the complex ideas you actually want to express.
Correct. We call this cognitive load. If your brain is maxed out just trying to conjugate the verb to be correctly, you can't be funny or persuasive or empathetic. You're just surviving.
Right.
By practicing these loops, these chunks, until they are automatic, and I mean literally drilling them out loud until your mouth moves without you thinking, you free up that processing power. Now, your conscious mind can focus on the content of the conversation, not the mechanics.
That makes total sense. It explains why I feel so completely exhausted after speaking a second language for an hour. It's mental athletics.
It is. You are running a marathon in your head. And your muscles, the ones in your face, are getting a workout they're not used to.
Speaking of the physical act, let's talk about shadowing and rhythm. I feel like rhythm is the unsung hero of fluency. We focus so much on getting the vowel right, but we ignore the beat, the music you mentioned.
Rhythm is crucial. It's everything. We obsess over grammar, but intonation, the rise and fall, the melody, is often what carries the emotional meaning of what you're saying.
So how you say it is as important as what you say.
Often more important. You can have perfect grammar, but if you speak in a flat, robotic monotone, people might struggle to understand your intent. Are you joking? Are you angry? Are you being sarcastic?
Right, the meaning gets lost.
Conversely, if you get the rhythm right, if you nail the music of the sentence, people understand you better, even if your grammar is a bit messy. The melody carries the meaning.
I've noticed that with musicians. I have a friend who plays drums, and he picked up Spanish incredibly fast. His grammar was terrible at first, but he sounded like a local because he just nailed the bounce of the language.
Musicians often have a huge advantage because their ears are trained to listen to pitch and rhythm. The tip here is to listen to the music, not just the lyrics.
How do you do that in a practical way?
Listen to how a native speaker goes up and down. Where do they pause? Which word do they stress in a sentence? Try to mimic that. It's called shadowing. You listen to a sentence, maybe from a podcast or a movie, and you repeat it almost simultaneously
At the same time.
or right after. You try to match their speed, their pauses, and their melody exactly. You're not focused on the meaning of the words, you're focused on the sound.
It feels a bit silly at first, doesn't it? Like you're doing a bad impression of an actor in your living room.
It feels incredibly silly. But you have to get over that embarrassment. It's like karaoke for conversation. You are training your mouth and your brain to move in ways they aren't used to. You are building those neural pathways, that muscle memory.
Karaoke for conversation.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to use that. Okay, let's move out of the abstract neuroscience and into the street. Let's talk about navigating the city and solving problems. Because when you travel, or even when you live in a new city, things go wrong.
They always do. That is the nature of life, and especially travel.
Let's start with the airport. To me, this is the highest stakes environment. You're tired, maybe you're jet lagged, the environment is hostile, it's loud, it's echoey, and suddenly there's an announcement over the loudspeaker.
The dreaded garbled announcement.
It's crackly, it's fast. Flight 405 to Denver has been delayed due to, and you panic. The brain just freezes up.
The panic is the enemy. We talked about cognitive load earlier. Well, panic spikes your cortisol, which basically shuts down the language centers of your brain. It's a survival mechanism that's not helpful here.
So what do you do?
In these scenarios, the skill you are developing isn't just translation, it's capturing the gist and the why. You need to filter out all the noise and just grab the keywords. Why is the flight delayed? Weather, mechanical, crew timeout.
So you're saying don't try to understand every single word.
Exactly. If you try to catch every preposition and article, you will miss the important noun or verb. Focus on the reason. Understanding the reason helps you predict the outcome. If it's weather, everyone is stuck. If it's mechanical, maybe they'll get a new plane.
And then you have to be able to explain your own situation, right? I have a connecting flight in Chicago, or my luggage seems to be lost.
Yes. But let's look at a really specific scenario that happens to almost everyone, and it requires a specific type of language. The hotel crisis.
Oh, the classic. You check in, you're exhausted, you get to your room, you flop onto the bed, open your laptop to tell your family you arrived safely,
Right.
and the Wi-Fi is dead.
A tragedy in the modern world. But seriously, this is a prime language challenge because it involves conflict, but it has to be polite conflict.
Right. You're frustrated.
You might be angry, but the key behavior here is staying calm. The temptation is to storm down to the front desk and just yell, "No internet, fix it," which is, very low-level communication.
It's also not very effective.
It's not. Clarity is power here. You have to explain the problem clearly to the service provider. You go to the desk and say, "Hello, I'm in room 204. I'm trying to connect to the Wi-Fi, but I'm getting an error message that says authentication failed."
That specific detail is so important.
Crucial. Then, and this is the hard part for a lot of learners, you must listen closely to their solution. They might ask technical questions you don't know the answer to. Have you tried restarting your device? Is it a Mac or a PC?
And if you don't understand, I feel like so many people just say yes and then walk away confused because they are embarrassed to admit they didn't get it.
Never, ever pretend to understand if you don't. That is the death of communication. You have to use what we call repair strategies.
Repair strategy.
Phrases like, "Sorry, I didn't quite catch that," or "Could you repeat that more slowly, please?" And always, always wrap the entire interaction in politeness. "I really appreciate your help with this." It disarms people. It makes them want to help you.
That's interesting.
Being rude usually just shuts down communication, especially when there is a language barrier. They're less likely to go the extra mile for you.
That is such good life advice in general, not just for language learning. Being polite gets you better Wi-Fi.
It really does. It's what we call pragmatic competence, knowing how to use language effectively to get what you want in a real social context.
Let's take a walk outside the hotel now. Let's go to a local market. This is a totally different vibe from the polite, quiet, air-conditioned hotel lobby. This is fast, it's loud, it's chaotic.
I love local markets for language practice. This is where you encounter the real, raw language of a place. You're dealing with purely functional vocabulary. How much? That's too expensive. Give me 3 of those. The tone is casual and very fast-paced.
And I imagine this is where you hear things that are absolutely not in the textbooks. You aren't going to hear "the pen is on the table" while trying to buy some tomatoes.
Definitely not. You'll hear idioms. You'll hear slang. You'll hear very distinct local dialects. And understanding those local idioms is a huge confidence booster.
In what way?
When you understand a vendor making a joke or using a local phrase for "too expensive" or a ripoff, you suddenly stop feeling like a tourist. You start to feel like an insider. It bridges that cultural gap immediately.
That's a great feeling.
It's empowering.
And what about just getting around?
Mm.
Asking for directions. I feel like in the age of Google Maps, we do this less, but sometimes your phone dies. Or sometimes Google is just plain wrong.
Or you're in a place with no signal. Asking for directions is a classic skill, but the reality is that native speakers don't give directions like textbooks do. They don't say, proceed 3 blocks north and turn right at the library.
Right, that's the robot version. That's what a GPS would say.
Real people say, yeah, just go down that way, past the big blue sign, hang a left where the old pub used to be, and it's the big brick building. You can't miss it.
Where the old pub used to be. That is so accurate. How are you supposed to know where the pub used to be if you just arrived in the city yesterday?
You aren't. That's what we call high context culture. But the tip here is to pay attention to their hand gestures and their intonation, not just the words.
Oh, good point.
The body language tells you go straight with a forward chop of the hand or turn here with a sweeping motion, often more clearly than the rapid fire speech. You have to read the whole person, not just their lips.
That is fascinating. It really emphasizes that communication is holistic. It's not just words on a page, it's hands and eyes and tone of voice.
Absolutely. It's a full body experience.
I want to take a quick second here to pause.
Mm-hmm.
We are covering a massive amount of different scenarios today, from the neuroscience of muscle memory to navigating these chaotic markets.
We really are. We're moving pretty fast.
And we have so much more to come regarding business English, which is a whole other beast, and socializing. But if you, listening right now, are finding these tips helpful for your own language journey, please consider subscribing to our channel. It really helps us keep bringing you these deep dives.
Yes, please do. We love building this community of learners and explorers with you.
Okay, let's pivot. We've survived the airport. We've got our Wi-Fi sorted. We found the market. Now we need to satisfy a basic human need: connection. Let's talk about the art of small talk.
Oh, small talk. The thing that everyone says they hate. I hate small talk. I want to have deep conversations.
I have to be honest, I'm kind of one of those people. I sometimes feel like asking how is the weather is just so artificial. Is it really necessary? Can't we just skip to the philosophy and the meaning of life?
I get that. I really do. But here's the thing. You have to earn the deep conversation. Anthropologically speaking, small talk is what we call phatic communication. It's social grooming. It's like monkeys picking bugs off each other. The content of the words doesn't really matter. When I ask, how are you? I'm not actually asking for your detailed medical history.
Right.
I'm sending a signal. The signal says, I am friendly, I'm safe, I acknowledge your presence.
So it's a safety protocol. It's a way of checking if the channel is open and secure before you send the important data.
Exactly. It establishes trust. It's the bridge you build to get to the deeper conversation. If you walk up to a stranger and ask about their deepest fears, that is aggressive. It's too much intimacy, too fast. You start with the weather because the weather is safe. It's shared common ground.
That actually changes my perspective a bit. It's not about the weather, it's about the signal. So the goal isn't to exchange profound information, it's just to keep the channel open.
Exactly. It's like a game of tennis. You hit the ball over the net, they hit it back. You just don't want the ball to drop. The goal is to avoid the awkward silence, which signals a broken connection.
Let's talk about social settings, maybe with family or friends.
Yeah.
How does the language change there compared to, say, the market or a business meeting?
It becomes much more relaxed, of course, but also more emotive. When you are chatting with friends, the vibe is effortless. You want to use vocabulary that reflects that warmth. We use what we sometimes call empty adjectives. Simple but expressive words like wonderful, lovely, or great.
That sounds lovely.
Hmm.
It's such a nice, soft phrase. It doesn't mean much literally, but it conveys a lot of warmth.
It does. It smooths the interaction. And the format is often a simple Q&A. Asking questions shows interest. How was your day? What did you do over the weekend? It's about shifting the focus from yourself to the other person. That also takes the pressure off you to perform, too. If you are listening, you aren't making grammar mistakes.
Now, here is a topic that I think is universal, and it's my personal favorite way to practice any language: food.
Everyone loves food. It is the great unifier, the one topic anyone can talk about.
If you want to practice English, just talk about what you're eating. But how do we move past just saying it is good?
It is good is a conversation killer. It's a dead end. The skill here is comparing ideas and expressing preferences with detail. Don't just say, I like pizza. That's a level 1 sentence. A child says that.
So how do we get to level 2 or level 3?
You use descriptive sensory words. Make your opinion come alive for the listener. I love this pizza because the crust is incredibly crispy on the outside, but the inside is really soft and chewy. Or, I prefer spicy food because it wakes me up and makes me feel alive.
You're explaining why.
You're explaining why, and you're using adjectives like tangy, rich, savory, bitter. That is where the flavor of the language is, not just the flavor of the food.
I'm getting hungry just listening to this.
Oh.
But moving from descriptions to something a bit more complex: storytelling. You mentioned earlier that this is a level up. Why is storytelling so much harder than small talk?
Well, small talk is reactive. I ask a question, you answer. It's a back and forth. Storytelling is a solo performance. You have the floor, all eyes are on you.
The spotlight is on.
To tell a good story in a second language, you need structure. You can't just ramble on. You need a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Can you give us an example of how to structure a simple story? Something that might happen in everyday life.
Sure. Let's say you are describing a friend moving house. You could just say, my friend moved. It was hard work. Boring. No one cares.
I'm already asleep.
Exactly. Instead, try to capture the details and the emotions. Start with the inciting incident. Oh my gosh, my friend Sarah moved last weekend and it was absolute chaos. Now I'm listening. I'm engaged.
Okay, you've hooked me.
Then you add the conflict. There were boxes everywhere. We couldn't find the packing tape, and she was so stressed out she almost cried. Now there's drama. But then, and
Yeah.
here is the resolution. We gave up, ordered a huge pizza, sat on the floor among all the boxes, and just laughed about how ridiculous it all was.
That is a completely different experience for the listener. You've taken me on a little journey.
Right. You have chaos, stress, relief, and finally, laughter. You are making it vivid. You aren't just reporting facts. You are sharing an emotional experience, and that is what connects people.
I love that. Don't just say it was good. Describe why. That's a fantastic takeaway.
It's the golden rule of engagement, really.
All right, let's change gears completely. Let's put on our suits, tie our ties, and walk into the boardroom. We're transitioning to professional English. This feels like where the stakes are highest for a lot of our listeners.
It often is. The shift in tone here is drastic. We call this register. We go from the lovely and wonderful register of socializing to the clear, concise, and action-oriented register of the business world.
In a meeting, you can't ramble about the pizza crust from your friend's moving day.
Please don't. You will lose the room immediately. In a meeting, time is money. You need to agree on plans efficiently. The language needs to be functional and direct, but, and this is the tricky part, it still needs to be polite and collaborative.
That balance is so hard. If you are too direct, you sound rude. If you are too polite and indirect, you sound weak or unclear.
It's a tightrope.
What are some power phrases that help structure a meeting effectively and give you that balance?
Structure is your best friend in a business setting. One essential phrase is recap. At the end of a discussion, saying, okay, let's just recap what we decided, signals a summary and ensures everyone is on the same page.
That's a great one.
Another is key takeaway. The key takeaway from this report is it's like a verbal highlighter. It tells people, stop checking your phone and listen to this one sentence.
And how do you give an opinion without sounding too aggressive? I know in some cultures you can just say, I disagree. But in English, that can come across as a bit harsh.
It can be very harsh, yeah. English business culture often uses what we call mitigation. You soften the blow. Instead of, you are wrong, you say something like, I see where you're coming from, but I believe this might be a better approach.
So you validate their point first.
Always. Or you can say, I have a slightly different perspective on this. Phrases like, I believe this is a good approach, are great. It owns the opinion, I believe. But it leaves room for others. It's not a command.
It's professional assertiveness.
Yeah.
It's not aggressive, but it's not passive either.
Exactly what it is.
What about the digital side of things? We live in our inboxes and our chat apps. I feel like email etiquette is its own separate language.
It is, and there is a huge, subtle nuance between emails and instant messengers like Slack or Teams. This trips people up constantly.
It's tricky, right? Because a chat app looks like texting with your friends. Looks like WhatsApp. But it's still work. The context is professional.
Exactly. Emails tend to remain more formal. They have a structure. Dear Alex, I am writing to follow up on. But on Slack, if you write a formal letter like that, you look a bit weird. You look stiff.
Yeah, out of touch.
But on the other hand, you have to adapt your style to the company culture. If you are too informal, hey guys, what's up? You might look unprofessional. The best advice is to read the room, digitally speaking. Mirror the style of your boss or your team.
And then there's the telephone or the conference call where everyone has their camera off, the dreaded wall of black screens with names on them.
The dread of the invisible audience. This is really, really hard because you lose all visual cues. You can't see if someone is confused or bored or nodding in agreement.
So what do you do?
You need to be extra clear. You have to signpost verbally, constantly. Okay, I'm going to move to the next point now. Or, does anyone have questions on that specific item before I continue? You have to create the structure with your words.
And what if there's a disagreement? You can't see their face, so you don't know if they are angry or just thinking deeply.
That's where those conflict resolution phrases are even more vital. You need to be able to resolve disagreements respectfully without any visual feedback. Phrases like, I see your point, but have you considered? Or, let's try to look at this from another angle. You validate them first. I see your point. That is crucial. It lowers their defenses. Then you pivot to your idea.
It's amazing how these soft skills are actually just language skills. We think of them as personality traits, but they are actually scripted phrases you can learn and practice.
They are. They're linguistic tools for social management, and anyone can learn to use them.
I have to ask the listeners a question here. Have you, listening right now, ever felt frozen in a work meeting? Like you had a great idea, the perfect solution was right there in your head, but you just couldn't find the professional way to say it, so you stayed quiet and you let the moment pass.
Oh, I bet so many heads are nodding right now. It is such a universal feeling. The silent regret.
If you enjoy these deep dives into real-life English usage, and you want to gain the confidence to speak up in those meetings and claim credit for your ideas, consider subscribing so you don't miss our next episode. We're going to keep tackling these exact problems.
Please do. We want to help you break that silence. Your ideas deserve to be heard.
Okay, we are moving into what I like to call the secret sauce segment. These are the advanced learning strategies, the things that aren't in the standard curriculum, the hacks.
This is where we get creative. This is where we leave the textbook far behind.
You have a technique that I love called eavesdropping. Now, usually eavesdropping is considered rude. My mother told me never to do it. But you say it's a powerful learning tool.
It is. And yes, a disclaimer. Don't be creepy about it. Don't lean over someone's table with a notepad. But listening to strangers in public, in cafes, on buses, and parks is a linguistic goldmine. We call this field work.
Why? What makes it better than listening to a podcast or watching a movie?
Because it is completely unscripted. It is raw humanity. You hear how people actually speak, not how they are supposed to speak, according to a grammar book. You hear how they interrupt each other. You hear how they express feelings naturally. You hear the incomplete sentences, the laughter, the hesitation, the ums and ahs.
I remember once I was in a cafe and I heard a couple arguing about where to go for dinner. And it wasn't like the textbook dialogue, where shall we dine this evening? I would prefer to have Italian food.
I would like the pasta, please. No.
It's never like that.
It was like, nah, not pizza again. We always get pizza. Well, you pick then. I always have to pick. That's not true. You never pick. It was so dynamic. It was fast, overlapping, emotional.
That is exactly it. That is real English. Capturing that back and forth rhythm, what linguists call turn taking, is something you can only get from observation. You realize that real conversation is messy and it's cooperative.
What about media? We all watch movies and TV shows. Is Netflix a classroom? It can be, but you have to use it actively, not passively. Passive watching is just entertainment. Active watching is study. Comedies, specifically, are great for everyday slang and casual interactions because they mostly deal with domestic situations, friends, family, relationships.
So how do you suggest using them actively?
Start with subtitles in your own language if you need to, just to get the plot. Then watch again with English subtitles. Then the real work begins. Turn them off completely. Or use the loop method. Watch a short 2-minute scene with subtitles to understand the meaning. Then turn them off and watch it again, just listening for the sounds. Then try to say the lines along with the actors.
And the news.
The news is great for formal vocabulary, politics, economics, science, but be warned, it is very, very fast. And it is scripted to be dense with information. It's excellent for practicing your processing speed. If you can keep up with a CNN anchor, you can keep up with almost anyone in a business meeting.
I'm a big fan of audiobooks and podcasts, obviously, since we're on one right now.
Obviously. They are fantastic for flow and pronunciation. Because there are no visuals, you are forced to focus entirely on the sound. It forces your brain to build the image from the words, which is a powerful way to strengthen your comprehension.
I want to try a visualization with you. The outline mentioned a bookshop scenario for practicing descriptive language. Since you're the expert, set the scene for us. How do we use a bookshop to learn English?
Okay, close your eyes for a second. Imagine you are in a cozy, cluttered bookshop. It smells like old paper and coffee. Rain is tapping on the window outside. You walk up to the bookseller. They aren't just trying to sell you a product, they are selling you a feeling, an experience.
So what are they saying? How do they sell it?
They might pick up a novel and say, "This is a gripping tale. It's an absolutely poignant story about family. The characters are so vivid, you feel like you actually know them by the end."
Gripping, poignant, vivid. Those are great high-level words.
Exactly. They are using rich, specific adjectives. This is a great practice exercise for any learner. Pretend you are that bookseller. Pick your favorite book or your favorite movie genre. How would you sell it to me? Don't just say, "It's a good book." Say, "It's a thrilling mystery with a shocking twist at the end that kept me up all night." Practice those complex sentence structures alone.
That is such a good solo exercise. You can do that in your room. You can act it out without feeling embarrassed.
You can do it in the shower. The shower is the best place to practice English. Great acoustics and absolutely no judgment from anyone.
It's true. Speaking of doing things alone, let's talk about the final piece of the puzzle, mindset. Because we can have all the vocabulary in the world, we can know all the grammar rules, but if we are terrified, it all stays locked inside our heads.
This is the biggest barrier for most people, the affective filter. The affective filter, it's a theory by a linguist named Stephen Krashen. Basically, it says that if your anxiety, self-doubt, or even boredom levels are high, this invisible filter goes up in your brain and it blocks the input. The language can't get in, and it certainly can't get out. You physically cannot speak fluently if you are terrified of looking stupid.
So the fear of making a mistake actually causes you to make more mistakes.
Yes, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We need to completely reframe how we think about mistakes. Mistakes are not failures, they are data points.
That sounds like a motivational poster. Mistakes are data points. Convince me that's true.
Think about it scientifically. When you say something wrong and you see a confused look on someone's face or someone gently corrects you, your brain pays intense attention. It highlights the gap between what you said and what a native speaker would say. That moment of awkwardness is actually a high retention learning moment.
Because it's emotional.
Exactly. You learn more from that one mistake than from 10 pages of reading a grammar book because there is emotion attached to it. It sticks.
So the goal isn't perfection. It's not to have zero mistakes.
The goal is never perfection. Perfection is a myth. Even native speakers make mistakes. We stutter, we use the wrong word, we forget things. The goal is connection. The goal is progress.
But what about when you freeze? You're in the middle of a sentence, and the word just, it vanishes. The hard drive in your brain is empty. What do?
It happens to everyone in every language. The trick is to have filler phrases ready to go your emergency kit.
Like what? What's in the kit?
Instead of just saying, and looking panicked, which makes everyone uncomfortable, learn to say, "Give me a couple of seconds to think," or "Let me gather my thoughts," or my favorite, how can I put this?
That actually sounds really sophisticated. Let me gather my thoughts. It makes you sound thoughtful, not lost.
Exactly. You are buying yourself time, but you are doing it fluently. It keeps the listener engaged. It signals, "I am still here. I am just processing." It maintains your status and your confidence in the conversation.
That is a brilliant hack. What about practicing alone? You mentioned something called soliloquy.
Yes. Talking to yourself, it feels a little crazy at first, but it works wonders.
So just narrating your life out loud.
Literally narrate your day. You're in the kitchen making dinner. Say out loud, "Okay, now I'm chopping the onions." Wow, the onions are making me cry. Now I am looking for the frying pan.
Where is the olive oil? Ah, there it is, behind the salt.
Yes. It builds fluency because you are connecting the physical action directly to the English words, but without the pressure of an audience looking at you and judging you. You get comfortable with the sound of your own voice in English. You realize, oh, I can speak English.
That's really key, getting used to the sound of your own English voice.
And once you master the onions and the olive oil, push yourself to more abstract topics.
What do you mean by abstract?
Don't just talk about the objects you can see. Talk about ideas. Talk about your dreams, your ambitions, your future plans. I hope to start my own business next year because I really want to have more independence. This forces you to use more complex grammar, the future tense, causal connectors like because, and abstract vocabulary. It stretches you beyond the basics.
I love that. From onions to ambitions. That is the entire path of fluency right there.
That's the journey.
We have covered so much ground today. From the neuroscience of prosody to the pragmatics of the hotel front desk to the boardroom and finally to the kitchen soliloquy. If you had to summarize the main philosophy of what we've discussed, what would it be?
I think it comes down to this. Immerse yourself, be curious, and do not be afraid to be messy. Language is a living, breathing thing. You have to live it, not just study it. Every awkward moment, every mistake, every freeze, it's all just a lesson. It's all part of the process.
Absolutely. Step out of the textbook and into the street. That's the core message.
And that brings me to my final provocative thought for our listeners. I want you to ask yourself this. Is your goal to pass a test? Or is your goal to connect with other human beings? If language is defined by usage, and your broken English successfully communicates your meaning and creates a real connection with someone, is it actually broken? Or is it just real?
That is a powerful question to end on. Maybe broken is just another word for being built.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Thank you so much for listening to your English podcast today. We really appreciate you spending this hour with us.
It's been a pleasure. See you next time.